Welcome back to another edition of the GuerrerosAzteca Podcast, a podcast where we talk about the Liga MX and everything going on around the football mexicano. Just a reminder, go subscribe to Guerreros Azteca. The channel link is in the description down below. Why should you go subscribe to this channel? Well, if you missed the update video, eventually the podcast you're listening to, this podcast, Guerreros Azteca Podcast, is going to stop here in TMG and is going to be continued over at Guerreros Azteca. But not only that, we will start a manager mode series with a Liga MX team in that channel as well. So all the Liga MX content from TMG will be migrated over to Guerreros Azteca. So go subscribe to that channel if you're a fan of the Liga MX. If you want more Liga MX content from myself, then go subscribe to that channel. It's going to be a slow and gradual change, I don't know if it'll be 2 weeks from now, if it'll even be complete in a month from now, but eventually it will happen. So go subscribe and I will thank you for it. So anyways, man, we have a couple topics lined up, especially just one topic, mainly one topic. And if I get through this topic quickly, which I don't know if I will, I'll give you my quick recap on week 1 of the Apertura 2014. There's a ton of teams that let me down, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I hate to sound pessimistic, but there's tons of teams that let me down. America, Chivas, Cruz Azul, León. I was expecting a lot more from these teams, and they let me down. Toluca is another one that let me down, and I do understand. But I do understand. I will keep in mind that it was just only week 1. And while we would love to watch great and spectacular football from most of these teams in the first, game of the season, it is just usually and simply just doesn't happen. Why? Because these teams have picked up new players, and these new players aren't adapted to the system, to their new teammates. So it usually plays out like how it did this past weekend. But, not all the games were bad. But I was expecting a lot more from America, even though America won, but I'm an America fan. I'm not happy with the way the team played. Osvaldo Martinez wearing the number 10, even though he scored 2 goals. One of them was a complete gift from William Yarbrough, who literally walked into his own net, into his own goal. Even though Osvaldo Martinez scored 2 goals with America, it makes me cringe seeing him play in the number 10 with Club America. After great players like Cuauhtémoc Blanco played in that team with that number, that number means a lot in most clubs. Osvaldo Martinez having it on his back really bothers me. It really bothers me. But anyways, man, if we have time at the end of this topic, I will give you guys my recap on a couple games in week 1 of action. So anyways, man, let's get to the topic at hand. And the title, I understand, is a little extreme. I don't mean to be super extreme, but I do believe in it, and I've been tossing this idea around for a couple of days now, and I do really believe what I'm about to say. The Liga MX hurts El Tri, hurts the Mexican national team, man. Now, not the Liga MX itself, but the people who run the Liga MX, the club owners, the club presidents, they hurt El Tri. They hurt the Mexican national team. Why do I say this? Well, take for example the Alan Pulido situation, the transfer that he's trying to get from Tigres to Olympiacos, the Raúl Jiménez situation from America to Porto. These young Mexican players, these young Mexican prospects, trying to go to European leagues to maybe win a spot in their prospective clubs and maybe develop into great players, and then in turn, come back to the Mexican national team, making the Mexican national team stronger. But what happens? These Liga MX teams ask for so much money for these young Mexican players that they have, man. Now, today I was reading an article, and it was an article about the Tigres situation, about the Alan Pulido situation with Olympiacos, and it was an article that pretty much quoted the Tigres president. I don't really remember his name, but he was saying, we will not let go of Alan Pulido for free. Now, obviously, he doesn't mean, literally free. No one's going to let anyone go for free. But what he means by saying we're not letting him go for free is that we're not letting him go for cheap. We want to cash out on this transfer. We're asking for good amounts of cash for Alan Pulido. So that's some of the things that really hurt the Mexican national team, because it impedes these young Mexican players to go to European leagues and develop into great players. And then once they're developed, they come back to the Mexican national team and they display their talents. They help out the Mexican national team in World Cups, in Copa Americas, in Confederation Cups. But they don't get the chance not a lot of players get the chance to migrate because these Liga MX teams ask for so much money, man. So I was also hearing, and I don't know how true this is, but I read also another article that said America had asked for more to Porto. They asked for more for Raúl Jiménez. So initially Porto offered 6 million euros, which translated into $8.1 million. That's good enough, right? That's good enough. But then I heard that America wanted $10 million for Raúl Jiménez. Now, I really like Raúl Jiménez, being an America fan. But Raúl Jiménez is not worth $10 million, man. I'll be the first one to tell you that he's not worth $10 million now. Sure, he's a good player. Sure, he has a lot of potential. He's still young. He's 23 years old. He has some accolades to his name, like the gold medal. He's played in a World Cup, although he didn't play much in the World Cup, but he's played in the World Cup before. So he has certain things, under his belt, certain situations and stuff like that. But he's not worth $10 million, man. So that a European team, when you're asking for that much money, is not gonna. They more than likely won't go through with the situation, and what will happen is that they're gonna, all right, you're asking for way too much money for your young Mexican player. What they're gonna do is they're gonna go look for a young Colombian player, a young player from Argentina, a young player from Ecuador, from Uruguay, and that might have as much potential as the Mexican player that you have, and they'll buy them for half of what you're asking, or they'll buy them for even less than half of what you're asking. And South American players, history says that they're more probable to be more successful in European leagues than the Mexican players. You know what I mean? That's just the truth. So why would they pay $10 million for your young Mexican player when he's still in development? Why would you spend so much money on a player who's not established yet, who is still a question mark, and you don't know if he's going to develop into a great player or not, when you can go to South America and buy a player for, I don't know, $4 million, $5 million, half of what you're asking for. And history says that this South American player is more likely to actually develop into a great player in European leagues. So it's just ridiculous. Now, why do these Liga MX teams ask for so much for their players? Well, the economy in the league itself is very good. The economy in the Liga MX is strong. It's very, very good. But I say that, and there was teams like Puebla and like Querétaro that wouldn't pay their players for I don't know how many months. But they're pretty much outliers. They're separate. Tigres is a team that is known for spending ridiculous amounts of money in the offseason. They always sign so many players. They spend so much money. They open the wallet. They just cash out, man. Tigres has a lot of money. Monterrey, the other team, has a lot of money. América, owned by Televisa, has a lot of money. Chivas has a lot of money, although their owner, Jorge Vergara, doesn't always want to spend that money. Chivas, we all know, has a lot of money. Cruz Azul, the same thing. There's other clubs as well that I could mention. The Liga MX economy is very, very strong. That inflates the price of these players. Look at what Chivas paid for Aldo Enigris. $5 million, I believe, maybe even more. And Aldo Enigris really isn't worth that, man. He's not a young player anymore. And, if judging by his recent seasons, recent performances with Chivas, yeah, I bet you Chivas wouldn't have paid $5 million for him now. So, I mean, it inflates the price of these Mexican players. So when a European club comes and asks and tries to negotiate, the Mexican players just scare them off with the prices. What do these teams do? They'll look towards South America, and they'll pull a player with just as much potential as yours, and they can get them for half or even less than half than what you're asking for. So look, Mexico had only 8 European players, or 8 Mexican players that play in European leagues in the World Cup roster. Just 8. Those 8 players were Ochoa, Diego Reyes, Héctor Moreno, Héctor Herrera, Javier Aquino, Andrés Guardado, Gio Dos Santos, and Javier El Chicharito Hernández. 8 players in the World Cup roster for this past, obviously, World Cup. Now, look at Colombia. Colombia, in their World Cup roster, they had 20 players that played in European leagues. 20. Costa Rica had 14 players that made up their World Cup roster that played in European leagues. Chile had 18. The United States had 14. Mexico only has 8. A big reason and a big part of that is because these Liga MX teams try to sell their players for so much money, man. For so much money. And these European teams are not going to pay that much. I mean, they're not going to pay that much for a player that's not developed yet, a player that is still a question mark. And history says Mexican players aren't very likely to succeed in European leagues. You know, Rafa Marquez was a player that was able to overcome that, was able to prove that theory wrong. Obviously, Hugo Sanchez, and there's more examples. But, you know, overall, you know, the history of success is more in South American players than in Mexican players. And South American players are usually cheaper because the economy in South American leagues is not as strong as it is in the Liga MX. That's just the truth. You know, players in the Colombian league don't win as much. A player in the Mexican league, in the Liga MX, wins, you know, extremely high pay. They win. The players in the Liga MX win a lot of money. Players in the league from Costa Rica don't win that much money. Players in the league from Chile, you know, I bet you there is some that win a lot of money, but most of them probably don't because the economies in those leagues aren't as great. And that's I guess and somehow is a good thing for the Liga MX, but it's also hurting the Mexican national team because it inflates the price of these Mexican players. And, you know, European teams are not going to be willing to buy out, you know, Raul Jimenez for $12 million or $10 million. They're not going to be able to buy out. They're not going to want to buy Alan Pulido for $8 million or for $10 million because they're not worth that. They're still young in development. Sure, they have, like I said, potential. They're prospects. They have a bright future, at least. It looks like that. It seems like that. But there's still question marks. They're still not fully developed, and you don't know if they're going to develop into great players. There's too much of a risk to pay that much money. So anyways, I don't know if I got my point across clearly, but hopefully I did, man. Because Mexico needs to do, not Mexico, but they need to do something about this. Yeah, well, Mexico needs to do something about this. Because, you know, unless, you know, you want to go and qualify to the Russia 2018, hopefully it's easier to qualify this time. You don't have to go to a playoff versus New Zealand this time. But if Mexico wants to go to Russia 2018, and aspire to get past the round of 16, to finally get past and advance to a 5th game, to the, you know, get rid of the whole quinto partido stuff. If Mexico aspires to do that, then Mexico is going to need more European players. That's just the point. That's just what it comes down to. Mexico needs more players playing in those leagues, because why? Those leagues are more competitive. Those leagues give something extra to these players. They give them some different experience. You know, it gives them a chance to face off against the top of the world, the top talent of the world. That happens in Europe. You know, if Alan Pulido goes to Greece, to Olympiacos, you know, Olympiacos plays the Champions League. If Raul Jimenez goes to Porto, the Porto plays the Champions. I don't know. I think they can play the Champions League, or they play the Europa League. So, I mean, that's what do they play in Mexico? They play the Copa MX. They play the CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, that's just not the same thing. You guys understand what I'm saying, right? Mexico needs more players in Europe, and it paid off for Colombia. Look at Colombia, how great they did, and look at what a great national team Colombia has. Costa Rica shocked the world. They have 14 players of the World Cup roster playing in European leagues. Chile also had a great World Cup. They were one shot that hit the crossbar away from eliminating Brazil in that one, what was it, a round of 16 match. So, like I said, and Chile has 18 players of the World Cup roster that played in European leagues. So it's proven, man. It's proven that these teams, you know, have success. They see great success in their national teams when they have more players in Europe. While Mexico, only 8 players of the World Cup roster were in European leagues. You need more. You're going to need more than that. And that's what Hector González Iñárritu is trying to get these Liga MX club owners and presidents to understand. you can't sell these players. I mean, you can, but European clubs are not likely to buy these Mexican players, these young Mexican players from you for that amount that you're asking for. They're asking for way too much, and they need to make it easier for these young Mexican talents to migrate, to be exported out to these European leagues, man. All right, let's say, here's what we can do. Let's say Chivas asked for Raul Jimenez. I mean, that wouldn't happen, but let's say they did. Let's just say that. It would be, all right, America wants $10 million for Raul Jimenez. All right, they could ask Chivas for $10 million for Raul Jimenez. But let's say Porto comes. Don't ask Porto for $10 million as well. Ask them for $7 million or something. Make it easier for the player. Why? Because you got to make it easier for the player to be exported out. Now, this is going to be a very, very difficult thing for club owners to agree to. They're greedy, man. They don't want to lose money. They don't really care about the future of the Mexican national team. I don't think they do. Some of them might. And maybe those that do care about how Mexico does in the World Cup, maybe those will be in favor of the plan that Hector González Iñárritu is trying to implement. What is he trying to do? He's trying to convince the club owners to let these talents go for less money, to make it easier, to not ask for ridiculous amounts like they are with maybe not really Raul Jimenez. Because like I said, I read that in an article, but I don't know how true that is, that America said, you know what, Porto, we want more. We want 10 million instead of the 8.1 you were offering. We want more. So anyways, there's other factors that is also stopping the negotiations from America and Porto for it to actually be official that Raul Jimenez is leaving. And that also is that Porto is waiting to sell, or waiting what's going to happen with Jackson Martinez. If Jackson Martinez leaves, then it'll be a lot easier, and it's pretty much confirmed that Raul Jimenez will be transferred to Porto. But first, Jackson has to leave, and then also America can't ask for ridiculous amounts of money for Raul Jimenez, because Porto is not going to be down to pay for that. So anyways, yeah, man, these clubs just need to relax with the money and just make it easier for these young Mexican players to be, exported out to European leagues, because they're the future. The young Mexican players are the future for the World Cup. That's it, man. No more Rafa Marquez. He's not going to make it to the next World Cup. Oribe Peralta is probably not going to make it to the next World Cup. So you need these players like Jürgen Damm, like Carlitos Fierro, like what's this kid's name? Man, he also plays in Pachuca. Pachuca has a lot of players, man. Pachuca has tons of players that are developing into great, or looking to develop into great talents. Miguel Herrera Equigua is another center back that Pachuca has that is young. He's not that young. He's 25. But he's also, he could be a backup for the Mexican national team if he, plays in Europe. Irving Lozano, a bunch of players, man, that have a lot of potential. Ponchito Gonzalez from Atlas, that have a lot of potential. But it would be great if they got their chance in the Liga MX, and after a season or two they were exported out to European leagues, and that would really, really help El Tri. That would help them tremendously. So anyways, man, I'm done with that topic. Hopefully you guys understood, and let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Quickly, the recap for week 1 of action in the Liga MX. Like I said, a bunch of teams let me down. A bunch of them let me down, like America. I'm an America fan, and although America won, I was expecting more from them. I'm not happy with the way they played, man. I'm just not happy with it. León dominated the first 15 minutes of that game, and then America scores in the 18th minute, and after that, León just fell apart as well. León stopped generating plays. Gulit Peña was looking great. He was looking very, very dangerous. He actually scored a goal that was, I think, wrongly flagged offsides. I think he was onside. It was in the first half, if I remember correctly. And so León was looking dangerous in the first 15 minutes. America scores in the 18th minute, and they kind of fell apart. And after that, it was just a bunch of crosses that León was trying. It wasn't working. Neither team, America nor León, looked good. I was expecting more from each team, but like I said, like I do, keep in mind it is week 1. Cruz Azul as well wasn't able to defeat Pachuca. Cruz Azul was at home. Pachuca eventually was down to 9 players. They got 2 red cards. They were down to 9 players, and I think there was a couple minutes left in the game. More than enough time left in the game for Cruz Azul to make a comeback. El Chavo Lustiza had scored the first goal in the first half for Pachuca. Cruz Azul could have at least tied it, because Pachuca had 9 players for a good amount of the game, and Cruz Azul wasn't able to do just that. So like I'm sure, I'm almost more than positive that Cruz Azul is gonna get better. But like I said, I was expecting more. And they kind of let me down, man. Cruz Azul let me down again. You know, the fans, you know, throwing stuff at the players, you know, after the game. They're upset, man. They're also expecting a lot more from Cruz Azul, because Cruz Azul always picks up a lot of talent in the offseason. They're like Tigres, and Tigres is another team that played horrible. Played really, really bad. Played really defensive against Atlas. They tied 0-0 in that game. So Toluca, I was expecting more from Lucas Lobos. From Isaac Brizuela, needs to turn it up. Another young Mexican player that just, you know, when Conejito Brizuela stopped playing well was when Miguel Herrera said that he was the best. He was currently at that time the best player in the league. After that, I don't know if it got to his head or he felt the pressure and then he stopped performing. So I'm expecting more from Toluca. I'm pretty sure they will turn it up. Chivas would have had the win against Chiapas, but Omar Bravo and that miss in the 89th minute. Angel Reina, a player who's showing a lot of promise. I really liked Angel Reina and the way he played with Chivas, but you know, he passed the ball on a silver platter. You know, he said, "Here, Omar Bravo, score and win the game," and Omar Bravo missed it. You know, he shot a goal, or he shot at the goal with so little conviction that it was just like, you just knew he was gonna miss. It was ridiculous. So Omar Bravo choked the win for Chivas, but Chivas, it wasn't all bad. Chivas showed some stuff. Obviously, they're gonna need to show a lot more. If not, you know, the relegation problems are really gonna haunt them, man. So Chivas looking like they have some room for improvement. So yeah, Angel Reina, I think that he showed some good stuff throughout the game. He had a couple of chances, but I think Angel Reina is going to be some big help to Chivas, man. Angel Reina is going to play well for them. So they need to get better, though. They can't afford another season like they've been having, because the relegation is going to get ugly for them. It already is ugly, but it's going to get worse. And a pleasant surprise was Chiapas, man. Juárez has an interesting attack, honestly. Juárez has an interesting attack with Franco Arizala. They have El Pipe Andrade, which is on loan from America, although he didn't play very well. But they have Hoyt Bermudez up there. They have Matias Vuoso, who scored a golazo, but it was offsides. He scored a chilena that was offsides. It was spectacular, but he was offsides. So that sucks for him, but it was a hell of a goal. They're looking really interesting, though. I think Franco Arizala is an underrated player, man. I wish Franco Arizala played in America. I don't know if it's because I had him in my Club Leon manager mode series. You guys remember that? And he was a beast for me. I really, really liked him. But I really like Franco Arizala. For some reason, that player just, I would love to have him in America. But anyways, man. So yeah, that was a quick recap. I know it was really quick, but I've been going on for a while. For over 20 minutes, my voice, I don't know if you could hear it, but it's already starting to it's already starting to go, man. It's already starting. If you don't believe me that speaking for 20 minutes is, well, I just also finished doing another video, so it's been more than 20 minutes. But yeah, speaking for nonstop for over 20 minutes, it's tough, man. It's a tough thing to do. I don't even want to pause sometimes. I really want to take a sip of water right now, but I want to pause because then I'm gonna have to edit the awkward pause out, or you guys are just gonna have to listen to me drinking water. I don't want to do that. You know, there's no commercial breaks here like there is on TV, so it's a lot easier for them to keep talking, and there is also more of them. You know, if I had someone to do this podcast with, then I would not speak, you know, nonstop for 20 minutes. So anyway, why am I rambling, man? I'm only making it worse. Anyways, man, thank you guys for watching. Likes are appreciated. Thank you guys so much for the support. It's crazy, man. These podcasts, I thought no one would watch them, and they get over 100 likes, and they get, you know, a couple thousand views, actually like 900 views, almost 1,000 views. But hey, you know, I thought no one would watch them, and you guys actually watch them. You guys asked for more of them, and I really appreciate it. And that's why I want to dedicate a full channel to just Liga MX stuff, to my Liga MX subscribers that really enjoy the league, that really enjoy, you know, watching and listening to stuff about the league. A whole channel just dedicated to the Liga MX from your boy TMG. So anyways, go subscribe to Guerreros Azteca if the Liga MX is your thing. It probably is if you're listening to this, but I'm done here, boys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree the Mexican teams, the Liga MX teams, need to sell these players cheaper? You can't ask for that much money for Mexican players. You need to make it easier for them to get exported. We need more players in Europe, damn it. For the next World Cup, I want to have at least 20 25, 30, man. That would be great. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thumbs up the podcast. It would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out, bros, and as always, ya sabes, que viva el fútbol.